yes, I'm very glad and thankful to be here with you all tonight. I'm very excited to be able to present this presentation on raising digitally safe kids, understanding and preventing cyberbullying. There's a lot of information that will be really helpful for you all as parents. And so I'm definitely going to try to provide you with as much as I can this evening. If there's questions, please uh, know that you can put them in the chat and our PIQE team will ask them at the end. So feel free to just, drop those thoughts or questions in the chat. But other than that, let's get started. So let's see. Tonight's presentation, it is my hope that during this presentation and how we cover it, you will be able to understand what cyberbullying is, how it shows up, and why it matters for the children in our lives, right? How it impacts them, social, emotional, and their mental well-being. We'll also learn to recognize early signs that a child might be experiencing or participating in online bullying and how to respond without shame. Talk to our kids, your child, about online behavior, screen time, and peer dynamics using curiosity and connection, uh, creating an updated family tech agreement that reflects our values and builds trust, and identifying age-appropriate boundaries for screen time and the use of technology to promote well-being and general communication. We'll also, oopsie, I jumped ahead. Let's see. It's also my hope, right, that we'll be able to explore digital values together and model how to show these values to the kids in our lives to build healthy habits, know how to report concerns, whether it's at school, district, or even legal level, when safe, or if the support system breaks down, right? Navigate school systems and their requests for support and in your preferred language, accessing cultural relevant resources, bilingual tools, and ongoing support for online safety and mental health. And I'll leave you all towards the end with some concrete steps on how to take this and promote safer use of technology and a way for your kids to stay connected in a way that is uplifting for them. So we'll go ahead and get started. So as I said, I want to be able to start with what our values are. And in order for you to know what I mean by this, I'll share a little bit about myself. So I am a proud first-generation college graduate, I earned my master's in social work at USC, and I graduated in 2022. I bring about 10 years of experience working with tweens, teens, young adults, both in the mental health field as well as in the educational settings. I'm currently in my third year here at Didi Hirsch, working out of our Metro site as a school-based therapist. And I was born and raised in LA, so I connect with the community there. And yeah, my goal has always been to come back. I love to travel. You'll see some of my dogs here on the screen with me tonight. And I like to say and share these things about me because they allow me to unplug from technology, stay present, pay attention. And in general, as I was saying, my passion is to just increase mental health awareness within our Latinx communities, help families build connection, clarity, and confidence, both online and in person. So why this matters, why getting to know who we are matters, right? It's because we connect them to our digital values. I believe that technology should reflect who we are and not replace it. I know that I have the power to share my story and decide who gets to be a part of it. So when I think of my personal digital values, I connect to how I see technology. And for me, it's to connect with others, but not compare. I value my screen-free time moments, right? So there's this balance between being on screen, being connected virtually, but also moments where I need to be away from my screen, right? To help me reset, help me rest, right? I try to model that presence with curiosity, with respect, both online and in person or offline. And I choose to make sure that I'm sharing my thoughts and the things that I believe in with um, and choosing what I share, right? Honoring my own boundaries. Um, I don't expect perfection for myself or others when it comes to social media. I believe in being able to allow some progress and empathy and staying grounded in the things that matter to me. So, as I share about my values, I would love for all of you to remember that when we define our digital values as individuals and as families, we're able to model that with our kids, but also allow them to define their values for themselves, which is very important when we talk about cyberbullying. So I'll go ahead and continue. So why is this important, right? So as we talked to, as I shared a little bit more about digital values, right? I encourage you all to ask yourself why this matters to you and your child. Um, what kind of digital behaviors do you want to model? Everybody has social media. Parents have social media, cousins, aunts, uncles. And so, what type of interaction are we also sharing when it comes to our relationship with technology, social media in general, right? And how do we feel, right, with its influence in our home and our relationship in our own safe space at home? So digital values might sound like, oh, we protect our peace and privacy. We choose to connect uh, over constant screen time, so connecting more in person as opposed to being on social media or consuming technology or the news, whatever that may be. We don't post anything we wouldn't say in person, right? That's another type of digital value. Um, we give each other tech-free attention every day. So defining, right, time to really connect in person and put technology away. So I encourage you all to reflect on what these digital values may look like for you, and connecting them to why they matter, right? As we move forward. So, what is cyberbullying? You've heard me say it, you've heard me talk a little bit about it and why it's important to be aware. Cyberbullying is a repeated intentional behavior that is meant to cause harm, right? Whether it's emotionally, socially, um, developmentally, right? Or social, emotional, whatever, in terms of harm, right? Harm. It'll cause the children in our lives some sense of doubt, shame. Cyberbullying is isn't just kids being mean online. It's also about repeated behavior, right? That causes them harm emotionally, socially, mentally. It can look like a lot of things, whether it's in a group chat, drama that people are bringing up, right? Gossiping, someone being excluded, or even unfriending someone, trying to embarrass them, sharing maybe information that is sensitive and that individual maybe didn't give consent to share. All of these are examples of what cyberbullying could look like. It's all meant to cause harm to the other person, to hurt their reputation, right? And so it happens, as I was saying, when adults aren't watching. It happens fast, just based on technology and the use that our kids have in our lives, right? They're so smart that they learn shortcuts before we learn shortcuts when it comes to technology. And so oftentimes it's happening without us knowing. And it doesn't leave a visible mark, which is what is one of the most challenging parts about cyberbullying, is that we don't see it physically. And so here, I'd love to just continue to give you examples of what cyberbullying looks like, right? So name calling, teasing, threats, exclusion from those group chats, online games, rumors, lies, right? Impersonation or even fake accounts. A lot of times we see our young people being impacted by a lot of comments or just what they say, like call trolls, right? with these online fake accounts, and sharing embarrassing photos or screenshots. So those are just some examples of what cyberbullying is. I really wanted to also give you real life data as, to the impact of bullying. So this is not specifically cyberbullying, but bullying in itself, right? So data really allows us to see how bullying is experienced in the lives of the children that we have, right? Where they experience it. So if you notice here within this big picture, we notice that 4 in 10 students who were bullied said that it happened in a classroom. That's, you know, that's a pretty significant number. 39%, if we're looking here, 39% says that it either happens in hallways, it either happens in, I don't know, lockers, it either happens in locations where there's a lot of people. So we recognize that bullying is an active impact to the lives of the kids that we love and care and support for, right? And so what this tells us is that bullying isn't just happening in the corner where maybe we're not noticing it, but it starts sometimes in person, right? Cyberbullying sometimes starts in person. It starts at schools, it starts clubs, sports, right? And then it unfortunately sometimes increases. And so with that, I also wanted to show some data when it comes to cyberbullying and the impact, right? So this is from 2021, the US Department of Education, the National Center of Education Statistics, let us know and let us see, right, that very much like bullying, it happens within other kids from school. Some children have identified that at least once a week, they reported being impacted by cyberbullying, right? By 37% of middle schoolers and 25% of high school, secondary schools also shared experiencing cyberbullying compared to the 6%, right, of elementary school kids. And the elementary school kids, we noticed that those numbers are potentially a little smaller than the upper levels or upper grade levels, excuse me, because sometimes our elementary school students don't have access to phones, right? They might have tablets, but they have those at home. And so there's some type of, still regulation, we could say, in terms of how much access they still have to technology. So that's where we see that dip. So yeah, very important to just visually see through numbers the impact of cyberbullying. So why does this matter? Cyberbullying can impact a child's self-esteem. They can believe they're not good enough. They can believe that they're not worthy, right? So their self-esteem takes a hit. They also experience challenges with sleep and their physical health, whether that shows up through stomach aches, headaches, changes in their appetite. Cyberbullying also can impact their academic performance. They can have trouble concentrating. They may not want to go to school. They may not want to go to specific classes, right? So attendance also is impacted by this. And overall mental health, right? It can create symptoms of anxiety, depression. They can isolate, withdraw because of all of these things maybe people are saying about them that we're not necessarily hearing, because again, cyberbullying happens virtually, right? It's not necessarily physical. And when it escalates, right, it escalates quietly. It happens through those chats I mentioned earlier. It happens through private DMs, right? It happens and victims don't necessarily speak up due to feeling fear, shame, sometimes guilt, or not wanting to look like a snitch, right? Not wanting to get someone in trouble, even though they're not themselves feeling safe. So this is why it matters. Now, I've thrown a lot of information at you already in the few the few moments that we've already been together. And so I'd like to just share this question. What was the last time, right, online, what was the last online interaction your child had that raised a concern for you or made you proud? And the reason I ask this question is, do you know what your kids are posting? Do you know what they're sharing? Do you know who they're sharing these experiences with, right? And so if you don't know, or maybe can't remember, it's a good point for us to just pause and reflect. That means that maybe we need to have a conversation, right, about technology and social media, and maybe having you be part of some type of connection within their social media as a friend, or um, you sharing what moments you also put out there for family, friends to see. So that's where this question is like coming from. So one of the biggest things that we want to also remember is that we want to start from a place of curiosity. We don't want to ask questions based on this feeling of control, because when we do that, um, kids, right, or even our teens, as we notice, when someone says no, they still go try to do it, right? So they sense this like resistance. And so because of that, we want to lean into getting to know more about their relationship with technology out of curiosity. So instead of saying, can you show me what that app on your phone is, or can you show me what you posted on Instagram, show me what you posted on Snapchat, why are you on your phone, right? Can you maybe share what type of content do you share? What do you like sharing with your friends, right? There's a way in which we can have these conversations with the kids in our lives so that they don't hear the control part, even though we want to keep them safe and control. This feeling of control usually comes from this sense of protection for our kids, right? Um, but we also want to leave the door open for trust and curiosity to lead a sense of conversation. So conversation starters, right? How do they work? So as I was explaining, right, instead of coming from a place of control, trying to say, what kind of things get shared in your group chats? What do you guys talk about? Who's in your group chat? Who's in your Facebook group, right? Um, what would you do if someone got picked on online? How would you react? How would you feel if you saw that happening? Has anyone ever made you feel uncomfortable on social media? Right? Or even, can you teach me how this app works, or even what the name of the app is? Right? So when we come out of this place of curiosity, we're able to provide and engage our kids with open-ended questions where it doesn't feel like a test, it doesn't feel like a lecture, it feels like a conversation. We're able to build that trust, right? And instead of seeming like we want to fix a problem or fix something and be in their space or protect them, because I know that's where it comes from, we're allowing them to know, hey, we trust you. And so that's why we want to have these conversations with you, right? And so when we invite these reflective questions, they make your child feel like, okay, I can talk to mom, I can talk to dad, right? Instead of saying, oh, am I going to get in trouble if I share this? So these are great examples of just, you know, statements or questions that we can use to be able to start having these types of conversations with our kids. So again, we're talking about connection and control, right? Why emotional safety matters. We know that kids open up when they feel heard, when they feel understood, when they feel seen, right? They disconnect and create secrecy, and engage in potential risky behaviors when they feel judged, when they feel they can't show up as who they are, right? And so as parents, as guardians, you all have the capacity and the opportunity to change the way in which we communicate with our kids, right? And lean into trust, lean into wanting to build a conversation as opposed to the sense of, hey, why are you on your Instagram all day? Hey, what are you sharing on Snapchat, as I said earlier, right? And so regular check-ins prevent crisis-only conversations. And when we connect with our teens, tweens, younger children, right? We want to be able to have conversations that aren't just, oh, you're getting in trouble because of this, or you're getting in trouble because you did that, right? We want to be able to have conversations that also um, promote the sense of, hey, I recognize you're doing something great. I recognize that you're trying. I recognize that you are putting in the effort, right? So when we need to have conversations of, hey, what's happening? It's not only, oh, I know mom and dad are, or my guardian is only going to talk to me because I'm in trouble, right? So that's the difference between connection and control. So in addition to this, it builds a routine, right? That can include non-tech time together. So time free of any use of technology, check-ins without pressure, and celebrating small wins, right? And in general, it just promotes the sense of connection that we we sometimes don't get because of this ongoing use of technology. Okay. So one of the strategies that I want to be able to share with you today is incorporating a family tech agreement. What is a family tech agreement, right? So a family tech agreement is used to open up the conversation between you as the adults and your children to set clear expectations, right, as to what the use of technology will look like in your home. It encourages responsibility and respect. It builds communication, not just compliance. Okay. And when I mean compliance, it's just like my way or the highway, right? We know that that does not work with kids, with teens. It doesn't work. So when we introduce a family tech agreement, it allows them to also feel some type of ownership in the conversation. And when that happens, kids are more likely to want to follow what they also agree to do, right? And so a family tech agreement is a neutral way to talk about responsibilities, to talk about limits, to talk about potential consequences to things, right? It could include free screen times, for example, eating dinner together, no phones in the table, right? How to respond if something feels uncomfortable or someone leaves an uncomfortable comment or DMs your child in an uncomfortable way, right? Age appropriate limits and consequences, which we will also cover later on in this presentation. So that is what a family tech agreement is. Now I'll share with you what it could, could look like. So how do we create one? We want to make sure that we're using kind, respectful language, not just within the conversation, but also being able to model that for when they interact with others online, right? Making sure we review, hey, you never want to share your passwords with your friends or write them down, or unless it's with you as their parent, right, or guardian. Asking permission before downloading any new apps or games, and also knowing what is it that what features are on these apps and games, right? Taking breaks when the screen starts to feel overwhelming. um, we all do it, this chronic scrolling, right? This doom scrolling, right? We could immediately lose 2 or 3 hours of our lives just scrolling, right? So we can include time frames, Come to trust the adult, right? If something online makes them feel uncomfortable, unsafe, or confused. In a family tech agreement, you also get to talk about how to resolve those issues if they were to arise. How do you have that conversation? What can your child expect, right? When approaching you with these topics, whether that's, hey, I'm going to hear you out and, promote this sense of no judgment zone, right? Whatever you tell me, we won't judge. We'll try to support you. That is something that could also be included in this family tech agreement. I also want to include some daily limits, boundaries, and like rules, bedtime rules based on age groups. So you'll notice here they definitely vary. So for children ages 5 to 8, 30 to 60 minutes a day on the screen is appropriate, right? Boundaries, screen use is only available in shared spaces. Maybe that looks like when we're all in the living room together, right? Or when I don't know, where everybody's trying to finish or I don't know, do their homework and you're done, you get to use your tablet, right? Bedtime rules, devices off 1 hour before bed. So all of these things matter as we talk to our kids about the use of technology, and they make a difference based on their age and development. So I won't go through the whole detail on this table. I will make sure that this is shared with you so that you also have it for you to reference as well. Okay, so what is a family tech agreement also includes free screen zones and times, right? So defining very responsibly, but also very specifically times when technology is not welcome, whether that's through family meals, bedtime routines, through schoolwork, unless they need it for any assignment, on family vacations, or even going on hikes, right? We want to make sure that we're being specific to when your child can and cannot use technology. And that's written within the family tech agreement, right? We also want to make sure we talk about, like I said earlier, what happens if something goes wrong, right? So as a parent, you're committing to talking calmly. You're committing to being able to listen to everyone's side of the story without judgment. You'll commit to being able to work together to make a plan to do things better the next time, right? And this promotes, again, trust and communication within your child and yourself. Other Another part of the family tech agreement is consequences, right? We know that consequences and limits, when done appropriately, are meant to help your child grow and learn in a healthy way. And so sometimes some of these age appropriate consequences can look like, for example, 6 to 8-year-olds using device without asking. Then that means don't use they don't get to use their device for a day, right? Or they get a reminder conversation and maybe they get to use it for less time, right? So being able to meet your child where they're at, but also model the use of technology responsibly. So again, this will also be shared with you so you also have it and are able to reference later. So what are the warning signs when it comes to cyberbullying? What are we looking for, right? So sudden changes in mood after screen time, withdrawal, right? When your child starts maybe just keeping to themselves, isolates with their friends and you as their parent and family members, avoiding school events or their favorite activities, right? Or school in general, hiding their device or deleting messages, having trouble sleeping, headaches, stomach aches. It's not always obvious what we should be looking for, but you as parents, I always like to say this, you are the expert of your child. And so you are going to definitely be aware of these small shifts and when they start to happen. Excuse me. Okay. So what if our child is the one doing the bullying? Sometimes that happens, right? What if they're the one engaging in cyberbullying? Well, we stay calm and curious. Ask what happened. We don't want to make any immediate assumptions that can potentially lead our child to not want to share what's been happening or why, right? Um, Try to understand the dynamics between peers. Sometimes there's things between, friends at school or other peers in class that is happening. And we've all heard the phrase, hurt people, right? And so sometimes they feel like it's the only way for them to be able to either speak their mind, defend themselves. So we want to make sure there's this open space where there is no judgment. You want to focus on accountability and not shame. And we want to help them repair the damage if possible, right? We want to show them how important it is to be responsible and accountable for what we do and what we decide to put out there. Discipline, discipline is important, but disciplining without humiliating promotes growth and empathy, right? And so when we do the consequences, when we instill consequences and limits, we want to do that, as I've said already, in a way where we want to teach our child, but also uplift them so that they know that they can come to us still when we're not, so that we don't break that sense of trust, right? And respect towards them and also towards you as the adult. So I know we all want to talk about solutions, right? I think that's the most important part when we talk about cyberbullying. But before we get there, I want to make sure that we also talk about barriers. And so as we talk about barriers, these are things that I know you as parents and guardians have experienced or could have potentially experienced, right? I want to make sure we name those things. So the first part of this is barriers in seeking help, right? So according to the National Library of Medicine, first generation and immigrant families often experience higher levels of cyber bullying victimization, right? Research shows that first gen students or first gen teens, excuse me, are more likely to face bullying and cyberbullying than their peers, oftentimes because of language barriers, identity, or even differences in their socioeconomic. Um, yes, CSEs or CES. There you go. Or SES. There we go. Oh my goodness. First generation teens may also encounter cultural and structural barriers when it comes to accessing support. Um, Parents also have a hard time when it comes to this and seeking help because we may not know the new technology, the new apps that are out there, right? So sometimes we don't know the questions to ask, right? We fear stigma. We fear maybe not knowing how to navigate these tough conversations, not just with our kids, but also with the school systems, right? And so these are very real barriers that impact parents and kids ultimately in seeking support. And so I included this table on the right here because it also just highlights general themes, right? So not knowledge, right? Being able to understand how to ask for help, being able to also culturally, right? That sense of shame, stigma, fear, maybe not knowing how to name what is bothering your child, right? And structural, right? Barriers, how the educational system is in place, and um, even being able to communicate with the appropriate individuals, right? So those are some of the barriers that as parents and as guardians, I know that you may potentially have experienced. Another part of barriers is trust right? Trust in the school's response to advocating for your child. Many families feel like sometimes the school does not respond in the way in which they would hope, right? The most effective way, especially when it involves digital platforms, when it involves social media. This can create a sense of mistrust and reliance, right? When it comes to seeing schools take action. Um, Evidence, right, shows that parents' support can really can really make an impact to how cyberbullying affects not just them as the parents, but also their relationship with their child, and how they communicate and how empowered, they allow their child to feel. So we know that when there is trust, there's a higher likelihood of being able to have clear communication and to seek support, right? So when incidents happen on apps, group chats, social media, outside of school hours, sometimes families are told that it's not the school's responsibility, right? And there's this gray area. And so sometimes all of these points can create confusion. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I ask for help? Who's going to help me, right? And in supporting my child. Um, Other barriers that you face as parents, right, can be the sense of uncertainty and shame, not knowing how to talk to school staff, counselors, depending on the situation, right? It can create some sense of anxiety, fear of judgment, um, that could ultimately discourage, right, the sense of wanting to reach out. As I've said already, mistrust, right, in institutions and systems already placed, right, can also impact the way in which parents ask for support. Sometimes, in talking to someone, right, they may feel dismissed or misunderstood, or even the attempts made, right? The number of attempts made to ask for support can leave someone feeling defeated, right? And so we recognize that schools and teachers and staff do the best that they can. But when a child is going through a situation like this, parents want to help, parents want to advocate, parents want to do the best that they can to keep their child safe, right? Another barrier that parents face is um, language, right? Being able to have the appropriate language or information, give it to them in their own language, in the language that they feel most comfortable with. And so it's important, right? I know schools try their best to be able to have resources in Spanish, English, and whichever other language is used in the school, right? Depending on their demographics. But even then, it could be sometimes really challenging to understand how to ask for help. So those are some of the barriers, right? So what does research show? Research shows that lack of follow through from schools can lead to parents feeling unsupported, dismissed, and unsure how to advocate for their child, right? Language barriers, as I've said before, limited transparency and unclear reporting procedures oftentimes increase the sense of disconnect, right? When trust is low, families may stop reporting altogether. They may feel like, oh, there's nothing being done. So, you know, just move forward, right? Even when serious harm is involved. And that's very, very dangerous. Why it matters in terms of prevention. We also know that research has shown when parents have knowledge, they feel empowered, right, to be able to support their child, to intervene early, and to provide them the support before things become, they exacerbate, right, or they become worse. It also allows parents to feel um, secure in being able to provide the sense of action in supporting their child, right? Problem solving. We want to make sure that when we're acting on the sense of prevention and wanting to reduce harm, we're building resilience, right? We're building the sense of um, action plan to be able to help our kids and our families feel safer in a space where they should feel safe, right? Whether that's school, social media, these places are meant for our kids to feel safe. And so when we're able to act on prevention, we in general empower ourselves and our kids to know that they can ask for help. So we're getting to the solutions part, right? So what do we do, right? How do we support our kids? Number one, knowing who to talk to. Oftentimes we hear parents say, I don't know who to talk to when something like this happens. Who do I ask for help, right? So the start of school is right around the corner, and it's always uh, highly encouraged, right? To go introduce yourself to the staff, get to know them, knows who handles, right? The when it comes to like consequences and discipline at school, who handles that? Is there a dean? Is there a principal? Is there a counselor? Being able to know the names so that slowly you're able to become more aware of the resources and connections at the school, right? If you're more comfortable in Spanish or any other language, being able to ask if that person can speak, right, the language, or if there's someone that can provide support in whether it's through translation, whether it's through, let's see, providing the actual resources, hard copies, whatever that may look like, but getting to know on campus who is your point person for support. Number two, and number two is a little lengthy, is responding with confidence, right? So these are like simple steps that can help. So when something happens online, I just want to know what to do. As parents, you just want to know, how do I proceed, right? What do I do? And so it's important to remember that you're not alone. As a parent, there is no instruction on how to be the best parent. It's part of learning just as much as it is of growing. And so knowing that, yes, in those moments where your child may need this extra support, you may want to have this action-driven plan. It's also okay not to have things figured out. Okay, it's okay to slow down and to feel, right, and to know and consider how you can respond with confidence. And in doing so is having a plan, right? A simple plan on how you can stay calm but take action. When your child is hurt, when your child is confused, when your child is feeling uncomfortable, right, and staying involved in whatever the experience or situation may be. Additionally, we also want to make sure that we're having proof, right? That we're saving things that we're seeing, whether that's taking screenshots or saving messages or being able to not print them out, right? Or use another phone to take pictures just so that you have them. Being able to talk in private, choosing a moment to talk to your child about what's happening. And again, being able to focus to what they're saying without judgment, right? So listening without judgment. Reporting it clearly, right? Sharing what you know with a trusted adult, whether that's at school, a counselor, like I've said before, a dean, a teacher, and sticking to the facts that you know, right? And number four, being able to ask for follow-up. It's okay for you as the parent to ask what's going to happen. What are the next steps? What can I see the school do to take action to protect my child? And to be able to keep a note of who you spoke with and when, and if possible, what those steps are, right? If you're able to write that down, have that sent as an email to you, just so that you're able to have that information as a parent. Number three, again, I cannot stress this enough, being able to advocate because you deserve to have the resources and the support in a language that you feel most comfortable with, right? So sometimes we know parents get letters or phone calls and you may not know what they're for or what they mean. And so just knowing that it's okay to ask for those things to be translated, it's okay to ask and go in person or call the school for that extra support, for you to feel confident in understanding the information given to you. And so most schools have at least one person that speaks Spanish, right? So we're able to ask for that translation. That really depends on the school and what additional languages are represented, right, through the school population. But if there's a need for translation, the school should be able to support you in that. Being able to also recognize that culturally, right, it is hard to ask for help, right? I know that within our Latinx community, it can be really hard to name um, things that are impacting us when it comes to our mental health. And so recognizing that and knowing that it may be scary, there might be stigma, there might be things that we may not know, but when it comes to, you know, just being able to advocate and being able to ask for support, it's not easy, but it can be done, right? And I think that this is what makes this presentation and the platform that we're using through PIQE really important, is that you're being provided this information, right? You're being encouraged to learn as much as you can so that you feel confident when it comes to protecting your child, because at the end of the day, it is a collective responsibility, right? When it comes to taking care of the children in our lives. And so the more equipped you feel as parents and guardians, the stronger you're able to advocate and the clearer you are able to make your voice to know what it is to ask for. Also, uh, don't be afraid to say, hey, I need someone to help me, right? Hay alguien que hable español o que podría ayudar con darme tal vez los pasos al seguir para ayudar a mi hijo, right? There's always a way for us to be able to advocate. And so clear communication is helpful. And it helps you not just relay what it is that you want to support your child with, but also staying informed, right? Staying connected and staying involved. Um, Trusting the school again, step by step. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes we're let down, right? Or maybe we don't receive the support that we wanted or expected, right? And so it's okay to want to believe the school and believe that they're meant and they're set to be there to support you, right? I know that education, teachers, school staff, they do the best that they can and with the resources that they have, right? And so um, again, it's really important to try to approach situations like this by giving each other grace and extending the sense of trust that everybody is showing up to do the best that they can to support your child, right? So rebuilding trust takes time and it takes action. And so again, these are things that you want to consider as a parent. If something has happened, you want to make sure that you're writing things down, that you're asking questions, right? If there's a specific concern that you have, that you're able to keep track of what's happening, when something was said, who did you speak to, all of these details are going to support you and not just being able to build trust, but also know what steps are being taken to support your child. If you don't get an answer or the problem continues, then it's really okay for you to respectfully ask to talk to the next person, right? Whether that's the principal, the district, moving up slowly, right? It's okay. You, as a parent, want to make sure that your child remains safe, your child is getting support, right? And so it's okay to want to continue and to ask the next person and the next person, right? Until you feel you have been supported. Um, Again, this is a collective effort. Um, Everybody has a small piece of the pie when it comes to supporting our kids when it comes to cyberbullying. And so it may not feel the greatest always having to, you know, go on to the next person, on to the next person, but we all have a collective interest in making sure our schools, our kids are safe um, and that they're growing in a supportive environment. in addition to this point, right, of trusting the schools again step by step, is being sure that you're connecting with the school, not just when there's a crisis, right? Kind of like I said with point one, being able to learn who your point person is at the start of the academic year is going to be really important, and keeping a relationship with the school itself, with the school staff, right? Not just when your child's in trouble or you're trying to support your child, right? You want to make sure that you're as involved as you can, and what is within your capacity. I know you all also have responsibilities apart from your children, and so it's okay for everybody's engagement to look different. um and just know that in being able to speak to the school, it allows you to have some type of connection and presence, right? And it's not just when, oh, something has happened that you're showing up. Number five is you deserve the right resources, right? And so it's okay, like I said, to move on to the next person in line if you feel that you're not being supported. To ask for that information in a language that you prefer, to be able to keep track of the things that you have done to support your child and the amount of times that you've reached out, right? There's also different resources, right? There I did highlight these two in blue here. Common Sense Media in Espanol and Connect Safety in Espanol. These are two resources that really provide us with additional help on how to navigate media within our homes and with kids. And so they're embedded within this presentation, and you can definitely explore them a little bit more. Additionally, under five, right, you deserve the right resources. It may feel confusing to speak up. Other families are probably wondering the same thing. So asking the questions in general is not just going to help you and your child, but it can also help other family and the community as a whole, right? When you advocate for support, you gain tools, right? You gain clear communication, but you also open doors for things to become resolved. I definitely have worked in schools where bullying has been an issue, or cyberbullying has been an issue. And with one parent advocating, that led to multiple like workshops, not just for parents, but for kids, right? And so as a parent, you have the power to really make a difference in the environment your child is growing in. Remember, you're the expert of your own child. And so if these concerns are persistent, trust and know that if it's within your power, which it is, you can advocate, you can make your presence known, and it can go a long way. All right, we'll continue. So if you need more support, what to do when it goes beyond the school. And sometimes there are situations, right, where it will go beyond the school. Sometimes there are situations where things become a little bit riskier, or things have happened that have caused children and our young people to, just be unsafe. And so it's important to know where to go. So every school has a school district, a district office you could go to ask for further support. Um, granted, we want to make sure we're talking to the school, but again, if you feel that you need additional support, it is something you could do, right? If you feel the school itself is not taking action or the problem is continuing, you're able to ask for the person that oversees student services, or even equity, the equity office, or person involved in equity, right? Just to promote this sense of security, but also community when it comes to how they interact with school. So these folks that's their role, that's the point, right? For them to be connected to the school, and to be able to hear concerns and to act upon them if there's something that's lacking, right? So just know that you could go there in extreme cases, right? You as a parent also have every right to make sure your child is safe. And so that may involve law enforcement when needed, right? And so if there are threats of violence, harassment, sharing explicit content, it's okay. In fact, it's needed to make a police report. Okay. Save all the digital evidence you can, save all the screenshots, right? You can also contact the school and let them know what's happened and let them know that there's an ongoing investigation, right? So that they're aware. But yes, it is okay. And in fact, I want to encourage you, if this is needed, move forward with it. I know it's scary to involve sometimes law enforcement, but when it comes to these um, higher riskier situation, like I said, when there's threats involved, when there's explicit content shared, harassment, we want to make sure that our children are safe. So definitely move forward with that if that's happening. There's also anonymous support lines, right? So some school districts have these support lines or hotlines, right? One of them is Safe Schools. The Safe School line, you can call in and report bullying or safety concerns. So if maybe going directly to the district office or the principal is a little too intimidating, or maybe it just feels like you would love to do more or want to continue to seek for additional support, these anonymous support lines are there. It's open to parents and students to alert the school about any type of inappropriate or unsafe behavior, right? So just know that taking action is not overreacting. It's protecting your child's well-being. You're not alone, and there are systems meant to support you. There's, as much as sometimes systems can be a barrier, systems are also there to support you and provide guidance. So we've come to this point of boundaries, right? We've talked a little bit about solutions. We've talked about the impact. How do we build boundaries, right? How do we build boundaries that elicit trust, right? So these are some tips in identifying healthy boundaries that include technology. So setting limits, not just for you or your child, but for you as well. Remember, children our teens, our tweens, they notice everything. So it's important to also model those things, right? It's okay to put our own phones down and go spend time with them. Connection, right? In terms of boundaries, connecting our boundaries with our values. So remember, as we talked about at the start of this presentation, what are your digital values? How can you incorporate those and connect them to your general, either individual or family boundaries, right? Again, model the behavior that you want to see, allow room for flexibility as they grow, determine when free screen time is needed in your home, and whether it's meal times, when it's your bedtime routine, when there is a family meeting or there's family vacation, whatever that may look like, right? It's important to define time where technology is not being used. These are some age appropriate boundaries, some examples. So again, we've reviewed these a little bit already. I will again send these, or they're already going to be included obviously in the presentation. So this is something you could always reference. They're both in English and Spanish. So this is something that you can use as you create your family tech agreement and, you know, identify boundaries that you want to include in it. So closing reflection. Not sure how much time we have, or we are going to end early, but one step you could take this week, right? Start a digital safety conversation with your family, with your kids, right? What is that? What did I learn today? Right? Setting a new screen-free routine. Maybe we start the day with no phones, just the morning with no phones until we make it to the car and everybody does a phone check. I don't know, right? Or talk about a family tech agreement. What is that? What does that look like, right? Also celebrating, right? Positive interactions with technology, with our digital presence, right? We don't also want to just cause this sense of disconnection and fear when it comes to technology and social media. We also want to make sure that we're noticing, hey, you shared this special moment with family, friends, cousins, whoever, right? And so keeping those moments as well at the top of your viewpoint, right? And again, it's about progress, not perfection. I also wanted to include some of our Didi Hirsch supports. So we have our 998 crisis lifeline number. We also, this is anonymous, so at any point, if you feel like you yourself or your teen or child in general would like to have a space to talk, this is our 998 suicide and crisis lifeline. There are other resources here, stopbullying.gov, connectsafety.org, commonsensemedia.org, as well as the Spanish link. So you have those as well. I will also, and I believe I've also already sent over the family media plan. So for you all to have and print and use with your families and start having those conversations. And again, just a quick reminder, right? Our digital values matter. The way in which we interact with the digital world is important. We know the digital world is fast, but our values can slow things down, right? The more we connect them with who we are, the more we're able to really choose what we share, who we share it with, and why we're sharing it, right? Again, technology is meant to be a sense of or used for connection, not comparison, right? Our values are able to allow us to reflect on things that are important, right? They're also meant to lean into the sense of, or help us lean into the sense of curiosity, right? Not control. They invite safety and not secrecy, right? And so how we shape our digital space also influences how we show up in it. So if there's anything that maybe sticks out to you in this conversation today, is that in order for us to support and create healthy environments for our kids, that also means creating values, right? That can influence how they participate and how they themselves see themselves interact when it comes to the use of social media. It's subtle, but it could create a huge impact in how they interact with others online and also the spaces that they create for themselves.